Hey guys, it's me, Taylor Ellis, the artist behind the Ellis Deck Tarot and the Tarot of the Starbound Phantasia. And today we're talking about the Hangman. Actually, I was talking about the Hangman yesterday too. I've actually recorded this video about a million times, and it in Hangman energy is just kind of not going anywhere. So we are just gonna kind of cruise forward with it and hopefully get it done today. This card is definitely one that I think comes up for people when their stuff's not going anywhere, or a sacrifice is necessary. And kind of in the journey of the tarot, it really is like the very next card is death, and it's like you're having to sacrifice your ego. You're having to basically give and know that you're not getting anything in return. The element for this card is water. And thinking about water in relation to this card, you would think about what water does when it is stopped by something. So think about like dammed up water when they dam up a river to build a lake. Suddenly the water starts to get more expansive. It gets more deeper, and what is what are we like when we get deeper? It's like we are kind of having to face kind of either issues that we haven't dealt with yet, or subconscious ideas are starting to um, be more accessible. Another thing that stops water is a clog. Think about what happens with a clog is that the water starts to back up and starts to flood into areas that it's not supposed to be getting into. So think about like issues coming up, things, maybe you're starting to project things, or even, you're at home with the family, and you say, "You can't stop me anymore. I'm going to clown college." Um, and then, getting into like the astrology of the card. It doesn't exactly have a specific planet or astrological sign assigned to it in the traditional sense. You have like the first through the 11th of the major arcana, they each get a planet, or a sign out of the original seven planets that were looked at. And then you get to 12, which is the hangman, and in T. Susan Chang's Tarot Correspondences, she assigns Neptune. And I think that's by way of the water sign. And Neptune is an interesting planet. I think a lot of artists can relate to the planet Neptune somewhere in their chart. Liz Green has a book about this thick on Neptune, and in her section about the crucifixion, and sacrifice, that's where she mentions the tarot, and she mentions the hangman. And she's likening it to Odin's sacrifice, hanging from the world tree for 9 years, or like 7th century Jesus, she mentions, was depicted hanging from the world tree. um, and these are both ideas of sacrifice. And for her, she says that a true sacrifice, one that's not transactional, is one where the thing is sacrificed with no expectation of getting something in return. What that means is it's not a deal. So it's like if we're going along in the tarot journey, and we've just passed the barrier of justice, or lust, depending on which deck you're looking in. You see that there is a need to kind of give the self up, and it's like you are going forward, and you've even kind of lost sight of the goal. And to kind of compound that, you can't go anywhere or do anything. And so this card, I think it does fit in with like the other cards, like death and the tower and the devil, the cards that give people the heebie jeebies, because we're kind of a cult of doers, and when we can't do anything, um, we sort of lose that identity of the self. It's almost like a cliche that when you go to a party and people are, oh, what do you do? And if you've ever been like unemployed or between jobs, or you kind of have a traditional role, um, and you're presented with like, what do you do? You realize that you're being appraised in that moment by the other person. They're deciding where to put you in relation to them, and what you can do for them. I think in the most benevolent or benign way, it's kind of just how we relate to each other. What little plastic hat do you wear in Lego City? But yeah, we have Neptune for the astrology. And then if we look at the I Ching that relates to this card, what I found for that was 23, which is splitting apart. And most specifically, the line that you focus on for this one is the sixth line. And in the I Ching, the different lines, they have different roles. And the sixth line is one that is pertains to like God or the universe, or definitely something beyond our control in terms of influence. And so this one is saying that there's still a fruit to be eaten, which is interesting. You'll see in a minute in the Ellis deck that I made the rabbit on that card is eating a piece of fruit. I didn't know about that when I was making the card, but that is kind of an interesting. Who knows how that transpired? But there's an idea there that once evil runs its course, the seeds of good are still available, and that the inferior should be put in kind of governance by the superior. Um, and when that line changes, it changes the to two, and that is a hexagram of all yin lines, and that puts you in a place where you aren't doing anything. It's that two is a card of yin, and it's a card of receptiveness. You're just supposed to be listening. You're supposed to be paying attention to the messages around you. And so we're going to get started with the Ellis card, and let's get cracking. I put a lot of different spiritual imagery in the Hangman card in the Ellis deck, and we'll try to break it down as much as possible. I know that I just superimpose the cards on the screen after I make the video, so I'm going to stop holding them up. So if you see me looking down, it's because I have the card for reference down here for myself. But we'll start with the character, the hangman themselves. The first thing to notice is that they are being hung upside down by a snake, and so we can either go with two different things with that snake. The first one is, in the West, you might think immediately of like the serpent in the Garden of Eden, because our little rabbit guy is eating that fruit we already talked about. um, so that guy, the serpent, in different beliefs, can sometimes just represent wisdom, and so then we can think again about Odin trading his eye for wisdom. This rabbit has both of their eyes, so obviously I didn't lean too hard into the Odin imagery there. But if we go to Eastern beliefs, we can think about the serpent as the Kundalini, or the coil of energy that starts at the base of the spine and moves upwards. And with the hangman, it kind of represents this temporary state, almost maybe like a forced state of enlightenment, or a shock perspective brought on by a shock. And so it's almost like we're renting enlightenment. So it's temporary. It doesn't exactly belong to us yet. In Kundalini, you're doing a lot of breathing exercises, a lot of chanting, a lot of meditating, and that's something that's bringing the energy upward when you're sitting upright. But this guy's upside down, so we're just letting gravity do the work. It's very clever, I guess you could say. And so it's green. It's the serpent energy moving upward. We could think of like the heart chakra with that. it coming from like a place of love. Looking at the rabbit themselves, they're wearing purple clothing, which is meant to represent spiritual wisdom of the crown chakra. And then the trim of his outfit is actually red and orange. So it's like the base desires do not go away. They're merely kind of peppering the personality. They're seasoned. They're seasoning. Offering kind of an accent. They're still present. They're just not dominating the personality. And then we get to the little piece of fruit in the rabbit's hand. And that has a little gray eye on it, like a gray wizard's eye, like Gandalf the Grey, maybe. But he's taken a bite out of it. He's had a bite of the fruit from the tree of wisdom. And so then we can go back to our serpent and have it be like, ha, I got you. And there's, think about like a Bugs Bunny cartoon or something where the rabbit, takes the carrot out of the trap and is like, or like I guess Chewbacca in Return of the Jedi when everybody gets caught by the Ewoks because Chewbacca couldn't say no to the allure of that meat hanging from the tree. But there it is. You have kind of this idea that to get to the next step of wisdom, you do have to sacrifice yourself. And so he's kind of hanging upside down. He's like a Odin figure, or in some ways like a Christ figure. He has a halo behind him. And so we're reaching the stage of sacrifice in our journey, where we're giving up something. In this case, it's like the body is being given up. The next card is death. It's like as someone that just turned 47, you go, everything that was useful about you just kind of goes away someday. So you kind of realize you have to move on, without that. And so I think for some people, that's probably where the spiritual journey starts, is maybe when you can't identify by your looks anymore. And so one thing that actually got covered up by the wording on this card is underneath the rabbit, there are supposed to be 3 coins on the ground. Those were like 3 coins that fell out of his pocket, and it was like a discovering the I Ching type moment, because a lot of times to do Chinese divination or like the I Ching, you can use yarrow sticks, or in this case, you roll coins in your hands. It's typically 3 coins. So it was for me personally that my hanged man moment was discovering the I Ching, or learning about the I Ching, which was for me like a non-ego form of divination, whereas I think there is a little bit more ego in the tarot, because it appeals to our ego. It's very visual. It's sexier than the I Ching. And then if we go up to the tree, we see that the branches holding the other fruit of wisdom are shaped like a Vajra scepter. And the Vajra scepter is a spiritual weapon of Tibetan Buddhism. And I think there's 5 to 7 different variations of the story. But one of my favorites, and what inspired this, was that the Vajra was created from the spine of a sage. And the reason that it was created was that Indra had basically been cast out of what we would call heaven by an Ashura, or a demon, who kind of had this very no man of woman born can kill me, but his was like, no weapon created to this point can kill you. And so there was a certain, they had to find some way to defeat this demon. And what they did was they found that the sage of this, the spine of the sage could be made into this weapon. And so the sage underwent this yoga practice to end his life, and offered his body up to become the weapon to defeat this demon. And so there it is, without expecting anything in return, gave himself over to allow Indra to re-enter the heavens. And the kind of almost like carnival stripes going on in the background. For me, were the energy moving up and down, the yellow and the orange energy of like the third chakra, the solar plexus, our personal power, and then the second chakra, the like family, like the sexual, like relationships, things like that. All of that is moving up and down. It's not being concentrated in the lower part of our body anymore. It's being spread out. It's becoming a more universal energy. All right, and then we're moving right on to the Tarot of the Starbound Phantasia, and in this one, I wanted to have the Fool be the Hanged Man and have that be a very clear representation of the Fool. So they're wearing the same outfit that the Fool had. They are still hanging upside down by a snake. We'll get to that in a minute. Um, the Fool is decapitated in this picture. The sacrifice is almost like literal, but the head has fallen down into the goblet that was offered by lust in the previous card. It is sacrificing the mind, the ego, over, and everything that we, your face, how you identify yourself, as all being given up. It's not who you are at this point in time. And what happens is that yields this seven-pointed alchemical star, and that's meant to represent, you're kind of having this moment of like universal wisdom, by giving things up and not expecting anything in return. You're being offered the perspective of the deity, as the I Ching would say. And what that means is that you are seeing kind of everything as a whole. If you're like looking back, the dots are a lot easier to connect in retrospect, and it's like this is a situation where you're having to stop and almost be like, how did I get here? I can't do anything. I can't go anywhere right now. So you don't have anything better to do than sort of observe what got you to this point. It's that part of the movie. So there's movies that start where it's like there's this crazy situation happening at the very beginning of the movie, and it kind of freeze frames, and the character's like, "Oh, I suppose you wonder how I got here today." That could be kind of the hangman, and then the entirety of the movie catching up to that point could be going on in the hangman's head. Um, but moving forward, we have the serpent is silver, more of like a lunar color, and they are being held by sort of a double representation of the Egyptian goddess Nut, who is the goddess of the night, one of the earliest gods in the Egyptian pantheon. And the reason for her and the representation of her is that I think as an insomniac, night is one of those times where I feel like that is when the most non-consensual reflection happens. It's like I, wake up and have to think about my life all the time, and there's decisions I've made, and things that I've done that come up, and I think about them, and I think about it. Have I grown since then? Am I still the same person I was? Am I doing better? Am I doing worse? And in terms of like being an artist, sometimes you feel like the hanged man is your career. You're like, what do I do? It's like you feel like you're like, did I make a mistake not being the child of a famous person? Did I not exploit myself correctly to get my art out into the world? All these kinds of things come up, and we see that the head, or where the head would be, of the hanged man is underwater, and that's back to our like water element. The head itself is has plunged deep down into the subconscious, so we are deep in our subconscious thoughts. And then the background of the hangman is that darkness of night. And so it's this pause that's happening. It's like You can't go out at night. You're home from work. You're not thinking about, in traditional roles, maybe you work third shift and that doesn't mean the same thing to you, but you're at home, and you're like, you don't have your job to hide behind. You can't, you're not like, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is who I am. You're like, oh, this is what's around me when I'm not giving myself over to work, when I'm not sacrificing myself at work. What is the result of the sacrifice? And you at that point realize that it's not, you're not making a deal, you're just having to give something up. I think both cards imply this kind of non-action or non-consensual loss of agency. um, you really can't do anything is what this card is kind of implying. And it's on the flip side, you know if you read reversals, or depending on the surrounding cards, are you kind of martyring yourself? Are you playing the martyr routine, or is someone in your situation playing this martyr role? And is this a real martyrdom, or is this are you expecting something? And I think one of the biggest themes of the Hanged Man is that you're having to continue on and not expect anything, and you are not being granted the luxury of being to throw yourself into what you're doing at the time. Um, that could be a job that's not going anywhere, but it could also be, you don't have anything to do. You're just kind of sitting there. And how do you feel about your existence when you don't feel like you can justify yourself in the rule book of capitalism? Or how do you feel when you're not, quote unquote, providing any worth? Um, but that's what I got for you today. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you letting me take a couple weeks off here. There was a whole week there where I really wasn't getting any sleep, and the last thing I wanted to do was put myself on camera. And then the week after that, last week, was my birthday, so we actually went out of town, and kind of in the interim, besides this, I've been really working on Zonbool, and trying to keep with the momentum of drawing. So obviously, when I make these videos, I have to stop drawing and make the video and do the editing and things like that. And writing a graphic novel, drawing a graphic novel, it's difficult to show your work in progress without giving the show away. Because at some point you realize, oh, I'm just, kind of showing spoilers for anyone that would really be interested in the artwork that's happening for this book. But it's something I'm really proud of. It represents, years and years of drawing at this point. And whenever there's a panel or two here that I feel like I can show without really telling too much of what's going on, I'll be happy to share them with you. But if you made it this far, thanks for watching. Please hit like and subscribe if you enjoy my content, or want me to keep making this stuff. That really helps more than anything else, is any kind of engagement you can do with the channel. Comment down below if you've got something you'd like to add to the conversation about the Hangman, or if there's another card you'd like me to do a video about. I'll get to all of them eventually, but if there's one you'd like to see in the meantime, I have no set plans on an order to go in. Or if there's something general you'd like me to do a reading on, I'd love to do that. I don't typically do readings on current events because I feel like there's enough people that are doing those. But if there's something that you'd like to hear my perspective on, I'd be happy to do it. Other than that, links are down below for all my stuff. Happy reading.